This is a bit of a different video than I've done in the past. I haven't really done gear reviews or things like that. It's been almost entirely firearms based. The only thing that's close to it is I did a review of the Feyachi V30 way back in the day. But this is the only gear or accessory type thing that I ever did a video on. In front of you is what I consider to be all you need for entry-level competition or just holster use in general. Now, I want to preface this greatly by saying, do not use, besides the gun, anything on this table for concealed carry or for high-level competition use. Now, why is that? All of this stuff is cheap as fuck, and it works, but if you're trusting your life on it, or you are very serious about your competition, you obviously aren't going to use these things, because you're going to want to, even in the slightest chance something goes wrong, you want to minimize all of those, right? So, this is mostly focused on items that I think if you are looking to get into holsters or haven't really used holsters before, or if you're on a budget for some competition, a lot of this stuff is perfect. The first thing that I want to talk about is actually the gun. Now, I'm going to have a full review of this 22LR conversion kit for the Glock. Now, obviously, this is the 40 cal Glock 24 slide. It's a bit bigger, but 40 cal is expensive to shoot, relatively speaking. It's not 50 BMG, but I mean, it's almost double the cost of 9mm. And even if it's 9mm, 9mm is like triple the cost of 22. So I'm going to have a full review on this slide coming out the week or after, or sometime soon after this video comes out, going over the benefits of this and why you might want to use it. But the reason I have it on the table here is because I think it fits perfectly with the budget setup here. So, let's go piece by piece. Okay, the first thing to look at are magazine and magazine holsters. Now, again, you will need, for almost any competition that you're in, or if you're on the range, 5 mags is the recommended amount. Now, I have a couple guns I don't have 5 mags for, namely being the Viz and the USP. The reason I don't have for those is because I don't use them all that often. I do shoot them, but not enough to justify the hundreds of dollars on magazines that they would cost. But for everything else, I have 5 mags. And for your mags, you're going to want some good, it depends on what kind of activity holsters. So, for example, this is a pretty generic holster off of Amazon. You can find them on AliExpress, Wish, whatever. It's the same shit from China. Now, these things just hold the mags. It's pretty simple, and they are double stacked, so they should fit any double stack. These will fit my Viz mags. They also fit my USP mags. Now, of course, you can get much more expensive mag holsters for specific magazines. You might have a hard time with Viz mags, but for almost every gun you can find dedicated magazine holsters for those guns. But is it worth it? I don't think so. I think, obviously, if you're concealed carrying or if you're doing high-level competition, again, that's worth it, but whenever I say, is something worth it, keep it in mind of the scope of the video. The downside to these is that they're a bit stiff, as you can see. Right? They're not super good for all types of mags. This one isn't as bad. This is a Pro Mag. Another P Mag. This one goes in a bit easier. They will treat mags differently. Now, the benefit of having a retention like this is that if you're doing any competitions where you are, besides just moving laterally and are worried about magazines falling out, go with these. Now, there are other options, namely, oh boy, alright, let's move this, try not to bump into too much. These. Now, this is an incredibly cheap holster. This was like $8 from Wish. And as you can see, there is next to no retention on this. If you flip this upside down, they will probably fall out. But in a competition like Steel Challenge, that's not really necessary. There's one stage where you're moving left and right, but you're not going up and down. Like, yes, you might bend over to pick up your mags, but they're not going to fall out from that. This is what I wore last time I was at the range, and for Steel Challenge, perfect. It gets all of your magazines in place. It's literally less than $10. Perfect thing to start with. Now, the caveat is if your, competition that you're going in requires retention holsters by the laws of the game, then obviously you can't use this. But if they don't, and you're not doing a whole bunch of movement and you're basically just keeping them to store your mags, why not go with that? So the next thing, obviously, are holsters. Now, this is where a lot of people will become stuck up on super high quality holsters. And I say, don't. Now, obviously, again, there are holsters that are better than others, and the people that spend more money on the holsters spend them for a reason, right? But a cheap Kydex holster like this, you find them everywhere. They're widely used in competitions, and they're widely used for just carrying around at the range if you want to. And these holsters are super cheap. You can get them off eBay for less than $10. You can get them, I'm sure, locally for really cheap. You can even make them yourself. They're really not difficult, and they fit so many things, right? This holster is the Glock holster that I used for a long time because it has an open-ended front, and it would fit the long-ass Glock 24. And of course, they can be modified. So this one I had to modify so that I could put the little cutout for the mag release. But these holsters are perfectly fine. Now, stepping up a little bit, you have something like this. Now, if you have any idea of what this is, you'll probably know that this is a knockoff. This is not the genuine speed holster. I can't remember from the name of the company, but this is a knockoff from China. Now, the reason that I have this is because the extra part that I don't have it on this gun right now, but I got a thumb rest for the Glock right here, and that will not fit in this Kydex holster, nor will it fit in most other holsters. So you need an open-ish holster that's like this so that you can place it in. And the way these work, you just push it in, flip it down, a trigger guard goes into here. This is what it would look like. Obviously, just imagine the longer barrel going into here. It covers the trigger completely. You're not getting anything in there. It's totally fine. And of course, these holsters are universal. They work with a bunch of stuff. Now, the one holster that other type of holster that needs to be brought up are the kind that you often see on places like Amazon. Now, this is a 1911 holster, and it has one retention piece. As you may have noticed, these two have zero retention besides the friction of the gun, which you can adjust here or here, or adding plates in this. These use retention, and it's just a little switch that unlocks from the back that allows the trigger guard to slide out. Now, when I took a holster class back in Victoria, there was one thing that the instructor stressed on majorly, and that was if you are going to get a cheap holster like this, it's fine so long as the mechanism to release the firearm is not by the trigger. Now, you will see it very often where in order to release it, there's a button right here, and you pull out. But if you just noticed what I did there, I'm pressing in the button, and my finger is pressing curled. So if you're doing it fast enough, you can pull, your finger will slip into the trigger guard, and you will fire a round accidentally. potentially into your leg where there are some very important arteries. So, and that's also not to mention the fact that it might disqualify you, because some ROs are very specific about having a trigger finger in the trigger guard, or appearing to have one in the trigger guard, before your handgun is ready to present. And they could disqualify you. And even if your finger isn't in, right? This was one of the things he stressed. Let me pull out this. Assume there is a push button right here. As I'm pulling out the handgun, and he sees this, if he's seeing me from either this side or this side, and he sees flesh through the handguard, he's going to say no. You want it as high up as possible. One, for safety, but two, also to avoid an unnecessary disqualification. So having a non-retention like this, easy to do, or if you have the type of holster that has the retention like here, again, easy to do, just push down, pull up. Your trigger finger will not enter the trigger guard or anywhere near it until you are ready to shoot. And I think that's especially important for people that are learning how to use a holster. Now that brings me on to how you attach a holster. Now, a lot of these holsters will come with little brackets. So, if we look to the back of these, there are different patterns. Now, this one has a 3-hole pattern, 1, 2, 3, and it has a little belt loop that would just clip onto a belt, and it would work much like this. So you just do this, slide it on, clip it closed. Now this works well, but you might not like it because it might sit in an uncomfortable position for you. You might want it a little further down, maybe a little higher up. It all depends on your arm length and your torso length, and it's a very individual thing. So, one of the upgrades I highly recommend is a plate system. Now, this is the Omnivore plate system, and of course it's designed to work with the Blackhawk Omnivore, but it will work with any holster that has holes that you can screw through. Now this one specifically I had to modify a bit. I had to drill a little bit extra so I could fit the two in, but it fit. And this one just worked flawlessly out of the box. Just screw it in, and now I have a holster. And if I want, let me move some of these down the line. If I want to attach this holster, or if I have multiple holsters for different guns, I can just turn it in. Now I have my holster. How do I get it out? There are 2 clips on the bottom. Just lift, turn, and it comes out. I like these holster systems. There's a whole bunch of different ones. You can do your research on different retention plates. I like this one. It's pretty cheap. You can find them on eBay, again, for like under $10. These are excellent ones. Now, in terms of attaching this to something, if you were to go with a plate, you're going to need something to attach it to. Now, again, this metal piece is from a company. I don't remember the name because it's a Chinese company. It's just some random one off eBay, but it's emulating a real retention plate. Now, if I flip this over, you will see there are a whole bunch of mounting spots on this. And you can fit this thing anywhere you want. There are a whole bunch of holes on either side. If you want it lower down, higher up, you can fit them. Or, if you don't want to do the plates at all, and you just want to put the holster, that's what I used to do. When I didn't have these, I would just screw it in. You can kind of see the marks where I screwed things in. You can get it set exactly how you want. Now, the caveat to these is single hole holsters. Now, as you can see, this type of holster here uses a single screw and a retention pressure where grooves will fit into each of the things here and keep it still. But obviously that's not going to work if you don't have the other half of it. So another thing to watch out for, if you plan on using either plates or these adapters, don't go for single screw ones. Make sure they have at least 2 screw holes. That's all you really need. Now, the other reason that I really like these plates is because it's a very secure fit. These leg wrap holsters make sure that it is not going to go anywhere. You're not going to try and pull on your gun and accidentally flag someone to your left, right, or yourself. Right? You're going to keep the gun pointed straight down in the holster until it is out and pointing forward. That was a problem with the leg retention on this one. The one that it came with was super dangerous. It had a very janky mechanism that attached to the belt, and this thing, when you tried to pull it out, it would just go like this. You would be flagging everyone. It's terrible. So if you are interested in these, do not use the stock belt loops. It is a very, very, very bad idea. Speaking of belt loops, the belt. Now, whether you're concealed carrying, open carrying, or competition use, or just general range use, the belt is incredibly important. You can get by using a leather belt. It's fine. It's not perfect. And by leather, just a regular leather belt. I mean, like, you go to Walmart and you find a leather belt. They can work, but you're going to have some flex, right? Now, of course, because concealed carry is huge, there are so many belt options you can choose from. Some more affordable, some not, some different locking mechanisms. But I'm just going to focus on some cheap competition-style holsters. Now, a competition-style holster is one that is 2 pieces. It has this belt, which, as you can see, has Velcro lining all around. And then there is another piece that is of identical length that goes in your belt loops and has Velcro on the outside. Now, what that enables you to do is to just wear that Velcro belt to the range. When you get to the range, instead of having to take off a belt and put on a new one, just slap this out of your car, stick it around your waist, and you're good to go. Because this thing is not going to let go, right? Velcro in one tiny spot, sure, will let go. In an entire circle, is not letting go. Not to mention, this will lock to itself as well. So these are extra secure ways for you to keep your holster with you, and allows you to easily detach the holster if you ever need to. If, God forbid, there was a medical emergency because you had a negative discharge, getting this off of you is super easy. Just rip the Velcro off. There's no buckles, there's no latches. You can just rip it off, pants down. And of course, you hope you never have to deal with that, but if it does, these are very easy to get to. And convenient in so many ways. And of course, you can find these holsters on Amazon for super cheap. Or not holsters, belts. You can get these belts for as little as $30. I would recommend around the $50 one. Again, make sure that you look at the measurements, because yes, you theoretically could cut this down if you lost weight, but if you order one too small, you can't add more. So make sure you do your measurements around your waist to see if you're getting the right size and everything. All of this put together, it's going to cost you some money. It's not free, right? But all of these are what I consider to be the fundamentals for cheap prices. So if we add it all together, the belt is like, we'll average and say $40. These 5-round or 6-pouch holsters, if you're allowed to use them, is under $10. If you can't use those or you don't want to use those, these are $15 to $20. The holsters themselves, anywhere between $10 and $25, Amazon, eBay, name it. And you could just end it right there, because they will all come with some form of belt loop, which you can attach directly to this, and you don't have to worry about taking it on and off. But if you want a little bit more modularity, if you have a couple handguns you want to try, you can use these plates. Now, these plates can be found officially for like $30 to $40, or you can get them on eBay for like $5 to $10. And these adapters you can get for about $50 to $75. It is metal, so it's not cheap plastic like most other stuff. You will have to pay a little bit more for them. If you want a real one, I believe they're closer to the $120, $150 range, but again, not necessary. So all in, you're looking anywhere between $60 and $120 for the entire package, obviously minus the magazines and the gun. And for getting started in holster use, learning how to use a holster, if you want to, like if you have a holster class like I had in Victoria, these are perfect for that. No need to worry about it, and they will teach you how to properly draw it. Or go watch some videos on YouTube on how to draw from a holster, how to safely do it. There's a whole bunch of different resources, but this is the type of equipment that will get you started. So, I hope you enjoyed this bit of a different video, and keep an eye out for the review of this in the next week or two. And thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.